Good morning. It's time for our devotional. I hope you had a good weekend. Uh, it's a kind of a cool and, and rainy day here in Nova Scotia. Wherever you're at, I hope you're having a good day, and hope you're maybe the sun's shining on you. Wouldn't that be nice? At any rate, here we are. We're going to look at our devotional. We're in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 6 today. This opening section of chapter 5. This is the last verse of the opening section. But we're going to just read it, and just for those that might be just getting this one-off video, you haven't followed along, just give you a little background. Here in chapter 5 of Proverbs, it's a man talking to his son about being faithful in his marriage, about having a good marriage, and being careful about the temptation to have an affair or to go off and ruin his marriage. And so that's the main theme of the whole chapter. But there's a lot of transferable ideas to other things, not just marriage. And so we're kind of exploring that. But we are also specifically talking about the importance of being faithful and true in our marriages. So a little of both. At any rate, here in verse 6, he's warning the young man about the adulteress, or the person, the seductress, the person who's trying to call him away from being faithful to his wife. And so he's saying a number of things. And then we reach to number 6, and he says, she does not ponder the path of life. Her ways are unstable. She does not know it. So here's this idea. This person is doing this. She's trying to lure you away from living wisely and well, and doing what's morally right. And part of the whole seduction process is that how, using sweet language and trying to sell the good side of it, what will seem like the good side of it, right? Trying to make you think this is really great, we should do this. But he's warning his son, but she's not really thinking this through. And if you follow her, you will not be thinking this through. And so we talked the last time a little bit about the idea of seduction and its dangers. And so in a similar way, this reminds us of the dangers of allowing our lives to have blinders. So the idea of the horse that's on a racetrack has blinders, so you can't see other things, only looks where he's going. And the horse then can run better because the less distractions and so on. So those blinders are deliberately put on the horse to restrict the vision to only the goal, which is of going forward. In a sense, that's how this works. It's a way that we end up putting blinders on ourselves because we want something. We see something we want, we pursue that thing, and we put blinders on so that nothing will distract us from getting to that thing. That might be fine for a racehorse, but that's not so good if what we're racing towards is not good. It's death, right? So is the destruction of our lives and the good things of life, or whatever. So here it says, she doesn't ponder the path of life. Hers is the path of death, of course. Her ways are unstable. She doesn't know it. She doesn't even know that her ways are unstable. The person that goes down this road doesn't realize that. And they put blinders on. They obsess about the goal that they've decided they want. And it gets so bad in our lives, with whether it be, temptation and this kind of sin, sexual sin, or to break our marriage vows or something, or any temptation, really. When we get tempted by something, we really want that thing. If we allow ourselves to obsess on the thing I want because there's such a desire, or whatever, I think it's something I want. And if we allow ourselves to obsess, it's like we put blinders on ourselves, and we will cease to be able to notice any arguments or any ideas or any reasons why we shouldn't pursue that thing. And even the most obvious things will become unseeable to us. No, that's what I want. That's where I want to be. And then you'll just pursue it like the racehorse. You'll just go forward, and you'll run as fast as you can into your doom. And this is one of the dangers of allowing our heart to lead us. See, there's this idea in our culture, very much so, that you should just follow your heart, that you should just go if you feel it in your heart and you really want it, pursue it. Your heart could never lead you wrong. But is that ever false? Is that ever not true? Your heart can lead you so wrong, so often, and so quickly. It's really such a dangerous thing when we allow ourselves to live that way, saying, if I want it, I should be able to have it. We will develop an obsessiveness about the things we want. We will put blinders on our life, and we will not be able to see any of the reasons we should not go for this thing. Even the most obvious and morally proper or wise things, we will not see them. We will discard them, discount them, And consequently, we end up running to our doom. And not only that, we become very inconsistent. So it says that she's unstable in her ways, right? We will become unstable in that pursuit because the more we allow our desires to lead us, our heart to lead us, the more we decide that it's flawless, there's no sin in my heart, right? I can do whatever I want, then your heart is going to jump from here to here to here. Your heart will change frequently about the things you want in any given moment. On one day, you can decide, I really, really want this thing. On the next day, you can decide, I really, really don't want that thing. And so it's a very unstable way of living where you can jump around to this, to that, and you obsess about this and that, and you decide, I'm going to pursue it. No, I'm not. How many young people, before they've grown up and learned self control, have decided on one particular day, I want to be a musician? So the parent goes out and they buys the big expensive piece of some musical instrument or something, or gets them lessons, and then after they realize the work involved, they decide, I don't want to be a musician, I want to be an artist. And so then their parents go out and give them an art kit, and it's like, I don't really want to be an artist, I want to be a and the pursuit of this and that, and anything that's shiny in the moment, any squirrel that runs across the path, oh yeah, I want that. And that's what our heart's like. Our heart just wants things. It just thinks, well, maybe this will be good or whatever, but it doesn't think like our minds do. And so if we decide ourselves and convince ourselves that we should just follow our heart, well, you'll follow your heart to every little distraction, every new shiny thing that comes along. And a lot of it will not be good, but you will have taught yourself to follow your heart. And so you will be blinded by anything that gets in the way of following your heart. And thus you end up in disaster, places you really shouldn't be. In the case of marriage, you can end up wrecking your marriage permanently because you pursued some momentary infatuation, and that's such a disaster. This talks about this woman is not pondering the ways of life, but that's an interesting statement, because the pondering of the ways of life is kind of what the rest of the Proverbs is kind of talking about here, is that we should teach ourselves to ponder truth, to find truth. Truth isn't always just right here, right? Truth sometimes is something I have to look for a bit. I have to search for it. It's not always just the first thing that pops up. Quite often the falsehoods pop up first. And so we need to be people who ponder, what is the right path? Where should I go? And what's really, truly valuable? And what we need to do is we need to teach ourselves to do that. Take the blinders off and instead go, okay, I think I want this thing, but let me ponder this. Let me act slower instead of acting impulsively. Let me act slower and think about this, and really think about this. Let me think about what does the Bible say? What would God want me to do? What's the right thing? What's the truth of this situation? And you don't just feel it, right? You're not Luke Skywalker charging down the Death Star trench run and just feel the Force, Luke, and you'll hit it, Nick. That's just not reality. Instead, slow yourself down and think and ponder the ways of life, so that when something comes up that you may feel, oh, I want it, but do I really want this? Do I really want this? Is this really a good thing? You need to force yourself to be a person that accepts truth, whatever it is, even if you don't like it. So then you ponder, what is the truth? And you think about, what is the truth? You try and find it. A lot of times when we allow our hearts to lead us, we don't want to accept truth. We don't like the inconvenient, unpleasant truths. We don't allow ourselves to think that. And so, like, what's very common in our culture now is, I just decide I have my truth, and this is what I believe to be true, and this is my lived experience. And we decide that somehow I'm the source of truth. Well, that's as dangerous as it comes, because you're not. You're not the source of truth. You've got a heart that desires things that it doesn't always think through. And so we need to stop, think, ponder the ways of life, so that we don't just recklessly proceed toward the goal that we feel like we'd like in this particular moment. That's the wisdom I'll give you from this piece of scripture. I think it's very wise counsel. The proverb teaches us to be very careful about these things, and for good reason. So God help us to do it, and help us to be wise and not just compulsive or obsessive. God willing, we will have our devotional tomorrow, and we'll go on to verse 7. Have a great day, and may God be with you.